On the phone, we have Pro Football Hall of Famer, former Pittsburgh Steeler, great John Stallworth. How you doing today, Mr. Stallworth?
I'm doing fine.
I see that you were born in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. How did you end up not going to Alabama for college, and you went to Alabama A&M?
Right. It was a different time. Let me say that. It was the early '70s. My last year in high school was 1970, so it was before some changes took place at the university.
Were a lot of colleges recruiting you back then?
I'm sorry. Say again.
Were a lot of colleges recruiting you?
Oh no, no, no. I actually got one offer to go to college on scholarship, and that was at Alabama A&M.
What was it like playing at Alabama A&M back in the early '70s?
Well, it was a great experience for me. It was a different experience. Certainly a black college football, and my high school was predominantly white high school. And so, sort of, sometimes the approach that we took different than the approach that was taken at Alabama A&M. But it was a good experience for me. It was the first time I've been in a passing offense. My forte, I've always thought that it was catching the football. In high school, we didn't have a quarterback that could throw the football, so I was a running back. A tall and skinny running back, and when I got to Alabama A&M, I had an opportunity to do the thing that I thought I was good at. So, football-wise, it was a good experience, and my moving through the academics of Alabama A&M was good for me also, and I also met my wife at Alabama A&M. So, a lot of good things happened there.
How did Eddie Robinson not try to recruit you? It seemed like he got all the outstanding black players back then.
Oh well, we if you look at our high school team, we were not a very good high school team. We won very few games over the 2 years that I played high school ball. So maybe that's part of it. And the other part was that again, I was at a predominantly white high school, and I had a good experience there. Don't get me wrong, had a good experience there. But even the coaches at Alabama A&M felt that I was going to go from there to a college that was also a majority universities. So that may be a part of it, that nobody looked at those schools from the black colleges.
And then you get drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers. What was that like?
That was great. Alabama A&M had not experienced a whole lot of players being drafted. I was drafted in the fourth round, and at that point was the highest draft choice out of Alabama A&M in the history of Alabama A&M. So, was a good experience. I had a lot of growth there. Drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers, I thought probably was going to be the kiss of death, because as far as being a receiver was concerned, because at that time the thing that Pittsburgh did really well, they ran the football, and they had a great running back in Franco Harris, who was young and when I got there in his third year, and they played great defense, and that was that 3 yards in a cloud of dust kind of philosophy, and they just didn't throw the ball that much. But with Bradshaw's development and Swan and I coming on, we changed that a little bit.
Yeah, and you had Rocky Blyer, who wasn't too shabby either at running back.
No, Rocky was not. Rocky played a crucial role for us in all of our Super Bowl wins.
Terry had to like it that you got drafted and Lynn Swan, because it allowed him to show off his arm.
Well, Lynn and I both like the big play, and we like coming up with the big play and giving the opportunity to do that, and that fit well with Bradshaw's style of play. So, and we came together at the right time, and for us, it was right when Bradshaw started to come out of those early years when he was up and down, and he started to play with some consistency, and we were there for those years.
Did you enjoy going up against that Steeler defense in practice? Because, I mean, that defense was ferocious.
Well, we never got anything done offensively unless the coaches called them off. that the defensive line, we couldn't run the football. You know, guys like Mel Blunt and Donnie Shell and Mike Wagner in the defensive backfield, J.T. Thomas. It was kind of hard even to throw the football. So we never got a whole lot done. But the good thing for us is that once we go up against those guys in practice every day, when we got to the game, it was a lot easier.
It's hard to imagine that it was hard to get things done. I mean, you had a Hall of Fame quarterback, Hall of Fame running back, 2 Hall of Fame receivers, Hall of Fame center Mike Webster. I mean, I know that defense was good, but it's just hard to believe.
Well, they were in their heyday. They were that good. I mean, if you look back over some of the things that they were accomplishing, and the other part was normally in the offense comes along a lot slower than the defense. You get to training camp and defense sort of starts clicking almost right away, and offense has to, because of the timing of everything, the blocks and all of that, and the throwing the ball and the timing with the quarterback and the receiver, it takes a little bit longer to develop that. So, and they knew exactly what we were going to do. You know, that wasn't going to be anything that we were going to do that was going to surprise them. And so when you had guys that were as talented on defense as they were, and then they knew where you were going, sometimes they take the shortcut and get there before you.
Do you think your best game was Super Bowl 13 when you caught the 75-yard pass from Bradshaw?
Yeah, it was my best performance in a big game, in a playoff game. You know, I think I've had other games where I think I played better. And all that was asked of me, catching the football and blocking and what have you. So there have been games when I actually played better, but that was probably my best big game performance.
Did you have a favorite Super Bowl?
Anyone that I played well. So, the ones the first one we against the Minnesota Vikings, we ran the football. Franco, I think, broke the rushing record for touchdowns for rushing record for running backs in that game, and so we played good defense, played great defense against Minnesota, and played and ran the football. Didn't throw it a whole lot. So good game. Happy with the victory, but as a receiver, you'd like to do more. Be more of a factor in the outcome of the game.
And then you had the 60 prevent slot hook and go play. What was that like?
Big play at a crucial time for us. We were not in that Super Bowl. We were not running the ball very well. There were 3 of our former coaches who had left Pittsburgh just right before the season, and were now coaches with the Los Angeles Rams, and so they knew what we were going to do. They knew what our talent sort of dictated that we do. They knew Bradshaw's strong suit. They did a great job of game planning that so that to take us out of that. And the only thing they left us with was big plays down the field. And that particular play we threw three times during the course of the game, and it worked well for us. Swan's big play, and the 2 that I called the 75-yarder for a touchdown, and later a 45-yarder that put us in position for our final score. So, as a kid, you dream about having a great performance in the big game of the year for professional football. That's the Super Bowl. And so, I came up with the winning catch in a Super Bowl win. So it was a dream come true for me. So, a lot of great memories there. That was for our era of the Pittsburgh Steelers. That was the last Super Bowl that we played in, and so it has a special place for us also.
What was Chuck Noll like as a coach?
I think Chuck ultimately is a great teacher, and he cared about that he was communicating effectively with you, and so you knew not only what you had to do but why you were doing it. And I think that gave us a leg up and understanding what we had to do and performing those actions in the game. I think there's a part of Chuck that most people don't see when you look back over the history. That I think he had a lot of compassion for the guys that played for him, and that he felt that as a coach that you couldn't show that. So he did things not to show that, but I think he cared about the guys that were on his team. He cared about their development not only as football players, but he cared about their development as people, as human beings. He'd tell us a lot of truths, he said, that about why you do a certain thing and how you react when a certain thing happens. And those truths transcended football. They were truths and lessons, life lessons that we could take on to our next job, our life's work, as he would call it, and whatever we were doing, they were applicable.
What I don't get is how you were not named the Super Bowl MVP in that Super Bowl, how Bradshaw got it.
You're going to have to talk to somebody else about that.
Because nowadays, I mean, you were on the cover of Sports Illustrated, but nowadays you'd be on TV saying, I'm going to Disney World, have all kinds of endorsement deals.
Well, you deal with the hand that you dealt. I had no say so in that decision, and certainly Bradshaw was a worthy recipient of it, and so you deal with that. You move on, and you try not to dwell in that. I thought an excellent football game. I was a factor in our team's win, and so I take a great deal of solace in that, and we move on.
And you had a great assistant coach. I've talked to a lot of former Steelers, and Raleigh Dodge. They just love that guy.
Raleigh's a good man, and just an excellent coach. Had a great rapport with the offensive linemen and all of us, actually. And we sorely hated to lose him when he left our team and went to coach in Birmingham in the new league. But even more than that, when it's untimely passing, we all agreed about that because he was such a good person and not just a good coach, but a good person and a friend.
I remember the saying one of the former players told me. He used to always tell him, "Pull up your bootstraps and get ready."
Yeah. Raleigh actually had a great singing voice too. I don't know when anybody's ever said that, but he had a great singing voice, and you catch him at a moment when he was totally relaxed and feeling comfortable, and he'd belt out something for you, and you come away from that amazed.
So did he sing with the other players like Mean Joe Green or L.C. Greenwood?
Those guys weren't singers.
Oh, that's right. Terry Bradshaw was the country singer.
Terry had a guitar. Actually made an album. One of the years that we were in Pittsburgh. I don't know how many he sold, but he did, and I guess it was on television a couple of times actually singing.
Could you ever envision Terry Bradshaw becoming the media celebrity he has become?
Yeah, I think Terry, when he got to the point where he was comfortable with who he is and who he was, that Terry is a very approachable guy, and he comes across real easy. He's a likable guy. In that sense. But with Terry, there was always that awkwardness of starting something new. When he came to the Steelers and getting adjusted to the game at that level was new, and it took him a while. And when he transitioned into broadcasting, it was awkward. I mean, I think initially the first few years that he was doing that, he only did the games out of New Orleans, and we joked him because we said that at that time New Orleans was not a very good football team at all, so nobody really watched. So if he screwed up, nobody would know. But he's practiced his craft. He is himself. He's feeling comfortable with that, and so yeah, I could see him being where he is and being very successful. But nobody knows when you leave the game what you're going to do. Everybody's got something they'd like to be able to do, but to what degree were we going to be successful when we transition? Nobody knew. And that's one of the questions I think all athletes kind of ask themselves: what's next? And if you can answer that question, then your transition out of football is easy, and you make it and you welcome it. But if you can't answer that question, you tend to hold on and cling to the life that you got because that's the only one you know.
And you've been very successful after football with your foundation and with all your ventures.
We were very fortunate. We encountered some great people that were able to help us along the way. We started a company and ran that company for 20 years, Madison Research Corporation, and a larger company came on and wanted to buy us out, and they did, and that next step went well for us. We started our foundation because we wanted to help some young people have an opportunity to go to school and continue their education, and we were fortunate, and we got a scholarship to do that, and a lot of the worthy young people don't have the resources to go, so we wanted to help out, and we've been able to do that. We've given out over 100 scholarships over the years. We have probably 13 or 14 young people on scholarship right now at my alma mater, Alabama A&M, among others, other schools. So it's been a blessing to be able to do that and to affect some lives in that way.
The Steelers position players are very successful. You, Franco Harris with Super Bakery, Lynn Swan, anything he touches seems like it turns to gold.
We've had some successes, and when you got a really good work ethic, I think it transitions very well to the next step. There are guys that are doing well. Their careers, their next careers have not been, that ones where they made millions and millions of dollars, but they've done well. Donnie Shell is now an advisor, a spiritual advisor at a college in South Carolina State. Certainly, Mel in his youth home done well, and so a number of guys, but maybe not in as high a profile as some of us, have done extremely well also.
What cornerback gave you the hardest time?
You mean outside of the ones on my team?
I mean, Mel Blount's in basically a class by himself.
Right. We like playing against the tough defensive backs. I mean, at the Mike Haynes when he's in New England, and then with the Raiders, Hall of Famer Mike Haynes, I think an excellent defensive back. There was a guy that played a number of years with the Cleveland Browns named Hanford Dixon that we had some good battles against, and Ken Riley when he was with the Cincinnati Bengals liked to play against him. So there are a number of guys out there that I knew going into the game it was going to be a tough battle.
How did it feel when you found out you were going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
Wow. After we settled down and the screaming stopped, we thought about it, deeper about it and what it meant, and you look back over a career, and I was never I don't think the guy that was going to be in the paper all the time. I saw myself as a hardworking kind of receiver that had some big plays in big games and did well, but one that was not going to spike the football, and one that was not going to win the MVP in the Super Bowl. But you feel good about your career. Going into the Hall of Fame, I think sort of, I don't know whether it's justified or verifies that the way we did it, the way we approached the game, we meaning John Stallworth, and the way that approach of just keeping your nose down and doing a good job and catching the ball when you're called upon to catch it. People recognize that at the end of the day, people look at that and recognize it for having a great value. There was a lot of times during the course of my career when, other things were going on and other people were being highlighted for this and that were a part of our team, that I thought, well, maybe I ought to change. Maybe I ought to do things a little bit differently, but I didn't, and I stayed the course of what I felt comfortable with. And getting into the Hall of Fame and being voted into the Hall of Fame sort of lets me know that was a good course, that was okay, and there is value in that.
Who was the leader of the offense, and who was the leader of the defense on those teams?
Wow, we defense. Our defense. You have to look at Joe and Lambert as leaders. Certainly, Lambert, the more vocal of the two. Joe, by his actions, certainly a leader and by his words also. But Lambert's a little bit more vocal, a lot more vocal than that. Offensively, I think we had a group of leaders on offense. Certainly your quarterback has to be one of the guys that stands up and does the job. But we at times during our heyday, we called plays by committee. Because Bradshaw in his wisdom would listen to what I wanted to do, and Swan wanted to do, and Franco wanted to do, and what Webster thought the offensive line could do. And so he got a lot of input, and he was his own quarterback, and he called his own plays, and so we had that kind of situation going there. Number of quarterbacks, had the philosophy that you guys just shut up and I'll call the plays. That was not our approach in Pittsburgh with Bradshaw. We all had suggestions about what we wanted to do, and Bradshaw respected that.
Do you think that L.C. Greenwood's ever going to get in the Hall of Fame? I mean, he was one of the leaders, too, of that defense, and I just feel like he should be in there.
I do, too. I mean, no question about mine that L.C. should be in there. I mean, you look at his performance over the years and on that defensive line, the number of sacks he had, the how he influenced major games for us, just his steadiness over the years, without a doubt. I think he has all of the credentials to be a Hall of Famer, and I'm hoping that still will happen.
I just wish it would have happened while he was alive.
I do too. I mean, I wholeheartedly agree with you there.
Did Joe Green really despise that nickname, Mean Joe Green?
I don't know that he despised it. I never heard him say that he despised it. That was, that was what he was called when I got there. But I actually, his early years, and he came in 1969, and I came in 1974. So, those early years, I think, is where he was Mean Joe Green, in the truest sense of the word. And when I got there, Joe was starting to be more Joe Green, the leader. Joe Green, the guy who when you wanted an assessment of where the team was and where we were and how we were doing and how we were going to get through whatever phase we were going through, Joe was the guy that offered those words up. So that was the Joe Green that I knew. And I told him this, that I never knew Mean Joe Green. I knew Joe Green, the consummate leader, the guy who by his actions and by his words set the path for us to go. And great leaders off the field and the coaching staff and Chuck Noll and his staff and certainly the Rooneys. But Joe on the field, as a young guy, you kind of look to him to see what's Joe going to say, how's Joe going to react to that, and you took your cues from him in that regard. So, to me, I never knew that mean Joe Green guy. I knew Joe Green, the leader.
Were the Cowboys your biggest rivals?
In the sense that we saw them twice in the Super Bowl. We had big rivalry with the Oakland Raiders. I had to learn to hate the Oakland Raiders when I got there. We played a couple of championship games against them, and then we had a big rivalry with the Houston Oilers, and we had to play them a couple of times in championship games. So. Conference championship games for the Raiders in the Houston Oilers. But as far as the big game, Super Bowl, certainly yes, the Cowboys. Cowboys in the sense that there was a big difference in playing style. Our playing style was smash mouth. Our coach, one of his philosophies was we got to hit them harder than they hit us if we're going to win the football game. And Dallas, with the flex defense and the multiple sets on offense, they were going to finesse you. And that was a difference in playing style. And I think when we played, it was which style is the more effective one. And certainly for us in that era, the smash mouth against the finesse won out most of the time.
And it probably was kind of fulfilling to beat so-called America's team when every time you beat them.
Oh yeah, well, that they were America's team, and that's the way they promoted themselves, and we were Pittsburgh's team, Western Pennsylvania's team, and we took a lot of pride in that.
The only mistake I think the city of Pittsburgh ever made was naming the stadium street Dorset Way. I think it should be named like Steeler Way. I mean, you can't name it after a Dallas guy.
Well, maybe so.
Did you have a favorite player growing up?
Oh yeah, I had a number of favorite players that I liked. Receivers, I liked Raymond Berry, and United to Raymond Berry, I think was for me. Ray Berry caught the football. Was not the fastest guy, but ran good routes and caught the football when it came his way. Sort of that resonated with me even as a young football player. Liked Paul Warfield. Paul was smooth and he was steady, and he came up with a big play and just happened to be in an offense that wanted to run the football in Miami with Zonka and Kick and Mercury Mars. But when they threw the ball, Paul was the guy. So really liked to watch him play, and just receivers in general. I liked Otis Taylor with the Kansas City Chiefs. Just thought, and with him, he came from a black college, and so I could identify with that. So a number of guys I like, but I'd say Ray Berry and as receivers, Paul Warfield. As a quarterback, Unitas will always be a hero to me.
When you went to the Hall of Fame, did you sit down with Ray Berry and those guys and basically say and share stories and say, you know what, I really enjoyed you growing up?
Yeah, I have done that with Paul Warfield. I have not had an opportunity to do that with Ray. Ray doesn't come back every year, and I don't come back every year, so we've kind of been missing each other. My first encounter with Ray Berry was he was with the Detroit Lions, and he was a receiver coach. And that year, the Lions coaching staff were at the Senior Bowl, and I'm at the Senior Bowl as a player. And Ray comes on me. He said, "Well, here you got great hands." And so he puts me in a drill, and he stands in front of me and puts his hands out and has someone throw the ball while he's distracting me with his hands. And he's right up close to me, and the ball has to go by him to get to me. And I'm thinking more that rather than catch the football, I'm thinking more that this is Ray Berry doing this. So he didn't have to move his hands; he could just stand there, So I never told him that, but I don't know why. Detroit obviously didn't draft me, and so I don't know whether he came away from it thinking, well, whatever they say about this guy's hands is completely false. He can't catch a thing. But I was more distracted by Ray Berry doing that than I was about just being there, than his hands in front of my face when the ball was on his way.
Lenny Moore told me that Ray Berry made him the great player he was because Ray Berry said, Lenny, you're going to work out after practice with Johnny Unitas and me, and we're going to make you a better player.
Well, then that's great. That's a great incentive. I can't think of two greater people to work out with. Certainly, Unitas and for me, like I said earlier, Unitas was a great hero of mine, and Ray Berry also. So, yeah, and just their approach. That I read stories of what they did after practice, and they sort of like, Bear's going to go out so many yards, so he's going to cut to the outside, and Unitas is going to knew that, so they knew that timing there. So either release of the ball before Barry goes into his cut, and so when he comes back, the ball is right there, and so he makes the catch. So, that type of work ethic, I think, breeds success.
Right, and the only person who could stop Paul Warfield was Don Shula.
Paul was good. Paul got a lot of respect from a lot of folks. And when I got to Pittsburgh, I think he had left Miami and went to the new league, and then had come back, and then he was in Cleveland again. So I got a chance to hear our defensive back Mel Blount talk about Paul Warfield and what you had to watch out with him. So a great deal of respect from our defensive guys for Warfield and his talents.
That was probably the only mistake that the Rooneys made, was cutting Johnny Unitas.
Well, you had to talk to them about that. That was a mistake. I'm sure in hindsight, you certainly have to say that. I think Lenny Dawson was in Pittsburgh for a little bit too. So, and he was released. Some good things, some bad things. If you look at the history of the Pittsburgh Steelers, I agree with you. They didn't make too many mistakes.
The key, I think, to their success is they pick a coach and they stay with him.
I think that's a factor. A guy gets to be comfortable with that. There's a certain philosophy in Pittsburgh that seems to, starting with Chuck Noll, seems to be a mainstay of the coaches that have come after him, is that we're going to play good defense. We're going to play good, solid defense. Certainly this year has not been a typical year defensively for the Steelers, but if you look at the Tomlin defense, and you look at the defense before him, and you look at Chuck's defense, and you see that there's a commonality about playing good, strong defense, having great linebackers play throughout that, and so that's a good thing. I hope that continues. So the offenses have gone from running the football to throwing the football a little bit more, but more of a balance there. But I still, even in that change, I think there's a strong emphasis on being able to run the football still.